Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another Read With Me session on this incredible book, The Mastery of Life by Don Miguel Ruiz Jr. It's been absolutely phenomenal what we've read so far. We are currently about to dive into chapter 4, which is called The Plaza of the Mind. And if you're just joining in for the first time, so happy that you are here. You're going to absolutely love this particular book. If you are on a journey that you want to achieve personal freedom in your life, then this is definitely the right book to help guide you to that place with the incredible wisdom that's shared within this particular book. So happy to have you here. For those of you that have been following along with this particular book and reading along, whether it's a physical book or just listening in, so awesome that you are back and continuing to grow and go on this incredible power journey together, and within yourself as well, to just become a master in your life. And he breaks down what mastery really is when he talks about it, but it's all about surrendering, letting go. It's not exactly about controlling life, but letting go and allowing and being fine and great with the outcomes that take place. So super pumped up and exciting, because every single chapter has an exercise that Don Miguel actually provides to be able to implement what we're actually learning and reflecting upon different things into our journal, which is one of the two tools that we're taking along and we're packing along in this journey. One is the journal, and number two is meditation space. So if you found your meditation space, if you have a specific space, go ahead and let us know in the comments what that space is, that you've actually chosen for your meditation space. So let's dive right into it. Chapter 4. My name is Vanessa Black. So happy and grateful that you are here. And I guarantee you the next 20 to 30 minutes is going to be absolutely transforming for you. So the Plaza of the Mind. I have a friend who was trying to stay fit during the COVID-19 pandemic, pushing herself with at-home workouts. While doing so, she injured her hip, but the injury didn't affect her daily life very much. So she mostly ignored it. She thought it would resolve itself. After a week, however, her hip was in constant pain. The ache was unpredictable and debilitating, showing up at unexpected times with no seeming relationship to her activities. She would start off on a walk feeling fine and have to call a friend to pick her up halfway through. Going to physical therapy initially felt like a humiliating experience to her. She learned that the hip itself was so compromised that she couldn't do the most basic daily actions in a healthy way: walking, sitting, or standing. Her muscles had atrophied in some places and overworked in others to compensate for the injury, making things worse. She learned that the hip is central to any and every full body movement. Desperate to get back to long runs and regular workouts, she had to scale back her activities to absolute basics. She had to relearn how to stand on one leg. She had to rediscover how to brace her core muscles just to sit in a chair. In order to start to heal, she had to isolate even the tiniest movements and find ways to do them without hurting herself. My friend's story brings up a good question. How do we heal something that's broken when we have no choice but to keep using it? Let me repeat that again. How do we heal something that's broken when we have no choice but to keep using it? This was true of my friend's hip injury, but it is also true of the mind. We only have the minds that we have, equipped as they are with our own judgments, our domestications, and our traumas. The mind is the source of our perception. It's where the voices of the mitote capture our attention. It's where we form our identities. We have adopted to all of this, limping forward by masking the mind's dysfunction and making it work. We have to learn to use our minds in a new way. It's no accident, therefore, that the next stop on our journey is the Plaza of the Mind. In the Toltec tradition, the Plaza of the Mind is also called the Plaza of Temptation. We often think of temptation as being something outside of ourselves, that sweet treat sitting on the counter or the big bold letters of the sales price on an item we don't really need. But while outside forces like these may trigger feelings in us, the actual temptation already exists within our minds. If it didn't, these outside factors wouldn't affect us. This is why, in order to change our behaviors, we need to look first at our inner world. The ancient Toltecs were very interested in the power of perception. Thus, they studied the human mind. They noticed that the mind is constantly telling stories, or what they called dreaming. So he's relating stories in the mind as dreaming. When a person you've never met walks into a room, your mind immediately forms all kinds of judgments and stories about him or her. This person is attractive or unattractive. This person seems nice or mean. This person appears to be having a good or bad day. Of course, the stories your mind spins will depend on your own past experiences and your domestications. And of course, they depend on how the event relates to the story you have created about yourself, your identity. Some of these stories may be fairly benign, but others, like some we will look at later in this chapter, can be harmful. Yet you can't just step outside your mind to get a clear picture of reality. Your mind is the only tool of perception that you have, and you can't engage with the world around you without it. So when you begin a journey toward personal freedom, your first lesson is to recognize that your judgments and stories about reality are not always true, that you create them through the filter of your mind. That is a very important sentence right there, and I'm going to repeat it, because your first lesson, when you begin this journey toward personal freedom, this is the first lesson, to recognize that your judgments and stories about reality are not always true. You have to really take that in. They're not always true. You have to understand this and recognize that you create them, the stories, through the filter of your mind. Through the filter of your mind. Okay, we got that? Through your mind. Recognizing, I'm going to repeat it one more time because this is key. If you have a highlighter, if you have your journal, let's write this down. And I'm going to rephrase this. When I begin my journey toward personal freedom, my first lesson is to recognize that my judgments and stories about reality are not always true, that I create them through the filter of my mind. When you recognize a story as a story, it begins to lose its power over you. This is important because almost all your psychological fear is based in these stories. In the Toltec tradition, we call this healing process mastering awareness. Let me go get my highlighter because this is some good stuff. All right, got the highlighter. Now we can continue. So let's dive into mastering awareness. So this is the healing process here, mastering awareness. Have you ever taken a familiar drive, perhaps going home from work, and arrived after 30 minutes or more of driving with the realization that you have almost no memory of the journey? You may remember some of what you were thinking about, a story from an audiobook or a conversation you had on the phone, but you don't have any memory of what the traffic was like or whether or not the weather had changed. Of course, you made it home safely, so you know you had some level of awareness that enabled you to drive the car and respond to changing traffic conditions. How is this possible? Our bodies have many levels of awareness, including many functions that don't require the thinking mind's involvement at all. In fact, much of the work of the body happens without our conscious commands. Digestion, these are examples. digestion, blood circulation, cell regeneration, among others. If we could feel all of the chemical exchanges that happen in our cells, or all the operations of our circulatory system, or every aspect of digestion, our minds would grind to a halt. These sensations would be so overwhelming that we wouldn't be able to do anything else. As a defense, we've developed the ability to use different levels of awareness for different tasks. Are you getting that there? When you understand that there are thousands of other unconscious tasks being performed throughout your body in every moment, like your heart is beating, that's unconscious. You're not conscious of that. And all the other digestions of when we eat something, all of that. When you understand that there are thousands of other unconscious tasks being performed throughout your body every moment, you can better see how the same can be true for the inner workings of your mind. Just as the cells in your body are performing their work without your conscious awareness, there are actions taking place in your subconscious mind of which you aren't aware. And these inner workings can, in fact, be just as powerful and important as your body pumping blood or healing itself from disease. In other words, it could be a mistake to think that just because you aren't conscious of something, it isn't happening inside your body or inside of you. Your main focus in the plaza of mind is to bring awareness. This is the main focus. Bring awareness to any ideas, beliefs, and stories that slip past your conscious mind, because it is these subconscious inner workings that drive you and influence the stories that you tell yourself and the resulting choices that you make. Okay, I'm going to repeat that one more time. So your main focus in the plaza of mind is to bring awareness to any ideas, beliefs, and stories that slip past your conscious mind, because it is these subconscious inner workings that drive you and influence the stories you tell yourself and the resulting choices that you make. Some stories you may have told yourself for so long that you've forgotten they are just stories, and you may now mistake them for facts. That right there, I would write that down. And I'm going to change the verbiage that I would write if I was writing these notes at the moment. Some stories that I may have told myself for so long that I may have forgotten that they are just stories, and I may now mistake them for facts. To free yourself from this, you'll need to master your awareness. Master your awareness. So what exactly do I mean by awareness? And what does true mastery of awareness look like? In mastering awareness, you seek to do two things. Let's write down these two things if you're taking notes. Expand your perspective capacities, and then use this expanded input to understand your mind in a different way. This happens by noting and passing through these 4 levels of awareness. First is the physical sensations. At this first level of awareness, you notice the flow of information coming into your senses from the outside: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Those are our physical sensations that we're aware of. What sensations are you feeling in your muscles and your bones? Breathe in and out and notice the sensations in your body as you do so. As we do this, we're becoming aware of those sensations. Notice the movements of your chest, the air moving in and out of your nose and mouth, any smells or tastes in the air. Try to take a few extra moments to perceive the texture of objects when you pick them up. Are they rough or smooth? Does the material feel harsh or soft? Tune into your body and take notes of any aches that you have been ignoring. Don't try to fix them. Just be aware of them. That is key. Don't try to fix them. Just be, just be aware of them. Thoughts and emotions. This is the second level of awareness. At this level of awareness, you begin to notice the flow of information through your mind's own personal dream. All of the raw information that flows into your senses gets processed according to the stream. Very often, however, you forget this fact. You become numb to these thoughts and emotions or fail to be curious about them. It can help to create a visual cue to make you pause and notice your thoughts. For example, try to make a point of checking in with your emotions every time you walk through a doorway, or perhaps every time you take a sip of water. Alternatively, you can name thoughts as thinking, sometimes often suggested by meditation teachers. If you can, try to notice when you are caught up in a train of thoughts and simply say out loud, if possible, thinking. This builds your awareness of the fact that you, this is key right here, you are not your thoughts. Let's repeat this one out loud. I am not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. How can I prove that? If you can become and observe your thoughts, can you observe your thoughts right now? What are you thinking? Observe. Just observe it. If you can observe something, you are not that thing. Okay? If I can observe this book, I'm observing it. I'm not the book. If I can observe my thoughts, what am I thinking? I'm separate from the thoughts. I am not my thoughts. Where suffering can really start to begin to happen is when I'm not aware that I am not my thoughts. And I think that is one. Me and my thoughts are one. Reactions and stories. At this level of awareness, you begin to be aware of the larger framework through which you interpret your thoughts and emotions. Like your thoughts and emotions, these are your constant companions. Through the mastery of awareness, you begin to notice the reactions you have to others and the stories that you tell yourself. In the latter case, you begin to find out if these stories are really true for you. This is the first step in learning to live life as a work of art. By choice, rather than by rut, or rather than by patterns, rather than by not being aware of this. Spend some time, maybe one day a week, noting various habits in your journal. Engage in activities not unlike the map making you've already done regarding your inner processes. You may already have noted a few of these inner stories that pop up regularly. Okay. Unique perspective. This is the level of awareness that holds your always shifting view of everything inside of you and in the outside world. Through building strength at this level of awareness, you increase your ability to change how you see things, to try out different contexts, and to grasp a deeper truth and paradox and the unknown. You soar up high like an eagle and gain vast perspectives. While this can be a difficult level of awareness to practice, it tends to emerge organically out of the development of the other levels described previously above. So he's saying fly like an eagle. Sometimes I also like to look, you can look at it as an eagle, or like, let's say you are picture an eagle. It's above in the sky. The eagle can see things when the eagle looks down, they see the world in a completely different way than the humans that are walking on ground. Would you agree? So that's a different perspective. So what Don Miguel is asking us is to practice, and through these levels of awareness, you're now being able to be like that eagle with your thoughts and with different things, and realizing, oh, even if you're making up, that's a story. It's a different, you're seeing it from a higher level of perspective. So you're kind of looking down at the story and saying, okay, do I want to change the story? Or I'm just aware of the story. That's power. Because you're not believing that the story is reality, because the story is not reality. That's coming to personal freedom here. In fact, each of these levels of awareness builds on the previous one. When you check in with your physical body, your breath, and your senses, you can also begin to notice your thoughts and emotions. By observing and understanding these, you begin to notice the stories you tell yourself and find out where they came from. This allows you to challenge and change your habitual reactions and the stories that keep you small. When you step out of the comfort of these stories, you discover a wide new world of perspective, understanding, and knowledge. This practice of awareness is so powerful. That's why, when people hire coaches or they go to the psychiatrist, they're trying to understand a different perspective, because maybe we're so attached to what's happening in our story at the moment that we need, what is your perspective of it? How do you see it? We can also be that same person when we disattach from the own stories and recognize, right now what I'm telling myself is a story. Right now what's going on is a story. And I can see it in a different light. Of course, this journey is never finished. Domestication is subtle and cunning, and some of your habits were formed a long time ago. You may be blown off track. You may change your viewpoint in the future. Don't forget the spiritual nature of this work, in which you circle again and again through each of these levels of awareness, adding new depth and complexity as you go. When you become more aware, the thoughts and beliefs in your unconscious mind can be brought to your conscious. This can allow you to break free of old patterns like nothing else can. This deepening awareness can therefore result in changes in your behavior, which may be noticed by others before they are noticed by you. For example, I have a friend who, a few months after he started doing this inner work, went back to his hometown to visit his family. One night during dinner, his sister knocked over a glass and spilled it all over his lap. My friend laughed about it and quickly reached for a napkin to clean up the mess. As he did so, he looked up and saw that everyone else had a look of dread on their faces. "What's the matter?" he asked them. They explained that the old him would have lost his composure and become unpleasant at this type of event. My friend's family had noticed a change in him before he did. In short, you will know you are making progress in mastering your awareness when you have a different response to the old situations and old temptations of your mind. This is a great point to be looking for. So you'll know that you're making progress in mastering your awareness when you have a different response to the old situations and old temptations of your mind. So maybe where you used to react in a certain way, you don't react that same way. You respond, and that is progress in mastering your awareness. Of course, you will keep getting dragged down by psychological fears from time to time, because the dream of the planet is full of emotional traps. But through awareness, you can learn to get up from any fall and gain another piece of wisdom. This journey takes time. Mastery is gained through the regular discipline of getting up again and again. The warrior is born through action. You are a warrior. There are many other well-known tools for strengthening awareness, including meditation, mindfulness, breathing techniques, reflective exercises, journaling, and more. We will continue to touch on these throughout the book. Here I want to introduce you to one way to strengthen your awareness that may be new to you. Okay? Seeing the story. One of the most powerful tools for strengthening your awareness involves noticing all the ways in which your mind tells stories. Our minds are very good at telling stories, but we often become unconscious of the stories that we tell ourselves and others. It's like the automatic workings of our organs. The heart pumps blood, the kidneys clean toxins from the body, and the mind tells stories. The difference is that unlike these bodily functions, some of the stories our mind spins can be unhelpful, even detriment to our overall well-being. When we bring conscious awareness to the stories we tell ourselves and others, we can see how they add to our identities. With practice, we begin to see the stories as just that, stories, not ultimate truth. Then we have options. We can release them, or we can consciously rewrite them. Our minds, that's what our minds do. I love that example where he gives the kidneys, that's what they're doing, right? The heart pumps blood. The kidneys in our body cleans toxins from the body. That's what their function is. And the mind, the function of the mind is that it tells stories. Your mind tells stories, my mind tells stories, your friend's mind tells stories, your partner's mind tells stories. Okay? But when we're aware of this, that our mind tells stories or their mind tells stories, okay, and they can be unhelpful stories. Now, with this awareness, we can just see them as stories, that they're not ultimate truth. So now we give ourselves options. We can say, I'm going to release that story, or I can consciously rewrite them. I can choose what it means. Right? In the last book, we asked, Tony Robbins mentioned those 3 questions that are really deciding what to choose. These questions determines the quality of our life. The first question was, if you remember, you can let me know in the comments, what are we focusing on? What does it mean? What does that mean? Which is, we can consciously rewrite them. So in that second question, what does that mean? I can rewrite what that means to me, that situation, that circumstance, what that person said to me. I can consciously rewrite what that means. And then the third question was, what am I going to do now? But based on my actions that I'm going to take is really determined by number 2, what does that mean? Because if I put a negative meaning to it, I'm probably going to take not such a positive action. But we can rewrite or release these stories until we listen to what is really there. We can't rewrite or release it until we listen to what is really there. Only then can we go through the story's details and begin to understand what makes them so compelling for us. And only then can we untangle our connection to them. A friend came to my house the other day in an angry panic. A colleague had written him an email that seemed to indicate that she was losing faith in his ability, insulting him and questioning his talent. I asked him what the email actually said, and he read it to me. In the email, his colleague briefly explained that she had overcommitted herself and needed to step back on a project that was important to my friend. She said she knew of someone else who would be brilliant at helping him, and she already checked that person's availability. He could step in and begin work on the project right away. That was it. No insults, no questioning his talents or losing faith in him or the project. And yet my friend had a detailed story running in his head. She doesn't think the project is good enough. She doesn't trust or respect me. She is pawning me off on someone else and trying to sabotage my efforts. Yet none of that was in the email at all. How did this happen? My friend filtered his colleague's words through his past history, his own insecurities, and his deep underlying fear of failure. In this case, the parasite was in control of his narrative. We talked through the situation, and with a little awareness, he noticed that his heart was racing and his breathing was shallow. He noticed that he was feeling irrationally angry, and he admitted that. For him, this emotion often masked fear. I reminded him that in the past, he told me that he sometimes fell into the trap of sabotaging himself if he felt that others weren't trusting and respecting him. Armed with all of these insights, my friend was ready to tell a new story about his colleague's message. He was able to feel grateful for her honesty about what she could and couldn't contribute at that time. And he realized that he didn't have to take her decision personally or make other assumptions. And he could appreciate her recommendation for a new collaborator and knew he could count on her ongoing support. Y'all, that was a powerful, powerful story, powerful insights. I encourage you, after this chapter, you can re-listen to that or take notes or read it a couple times because it happens all the time, whether it's through text message, okay, or an email, where we can come up with these stories where none of that text or none of that email or none of that, what that person said in the phone call had anything to do with the story that we just created. But we habitually come to make an assumption or we take it personally. So now it's becoming aware, seeing what's actually written or spoken, having the courage to ask questions so I don't make assumptions, you know, and seeing it in a different way. The power of the jaguar. In my tradition, we often describe the awareness of a Toltec warrior as the symbolic power of the jaguar. A native to what is now called Mexico, this sleek, muscular hunter can teach us a lot about how to turn on our senses and activate our emotional bodies. The jaguar stalks silently and tunes into sounds, patterns, movements, and smells. It keeps its focus narrow and wide at the same time. Its body relaxed and ready. It notices when things feel different or strange. When its prey comes into view, it launches into powerful, decisive action. It doesn't know what the outcome will be, but it gives it everything it's got. The jaguar is thus a good model for practicing awareness. In this case, your prey is the old stories and agreements that are blocking your quest for personal freedom. You are hunting down the thoughts, actions, and beliefs that keep these unhelpful stories alive and real for you. Imagine yourself as the jaguar of your own mind. That is my new spirit animal, the jaguar. Okay? Love this. Wake up in the morning ready for the hunt. It may be helpful to decide on one thing you will stalk on a given day. Perhaps negative self-talk or fear or failure. Or you may be in search of something you want more of, like joy or rest. What does this look like throughout your day? Perhaps you look in the mirror and your intention goes straight to some part of your body that you think is flawed. The jaguar wakes up in this moment and listens closely for what happens next. Your mitote kicks into gear, meaning the negative voices in your head. I shouldn't look like this. If I were truly enlightened, I wouldn't care how I looked. Then the jaguar, your inner warrior, leaps into the fray and starts to challenge the agreements that led to these thoughts. It has heard the words should or would, telltale signs of parasite thinking. What is happening right now? It snarls. What do you really feel? You tune into your body, not the reflection in the mirror, but your actual flesh and bones. Whatever you feel there, achy, warm, tingly, is 100 times more real than the voices in your head. Now you have a chance to change the narrative inside your mind. My body is hungry, so I'm going to eat a nourishing breakfast. I feel sluggish, so I'm going to give myself the gift of a walk outside. Throughout your day, you continue to stop your negative self-talk, listening for should or would. So what he means by that, those words, should or would, are telltale signs of negative parasite thinking. So whenever you're observing your thoughts, and maybe it's like, I should look like this, or I would be better if I was whatever, would is in there, should is in there. Those words are signs that that's the parasite thinking. That is not you, and that is not the warrior. That is not the jaguar. So throughout your day, you continue to stop your negative self-talk, listening for should or would. You are ruthless, yet loving. Remember, the parasite's voice does not diminish when confronted with another harsh or critical voice, because this is simply more parasite talk, but it will eventually yield to a voice that is relentlessly loving, gentle, and kind. I love that so much. You need to be your biggest fan. You need to be that relentless, loving, gentle, and kind voice to you. I love that. You are ruthless because you're stalking everything, yet loving. Repeat that. I am ruthless, yet loving. I'm relentlessly loving, gentle, and kind. You can do this with any aspect of your own personal dream right now. And it's important to remember that this, like many other exercises and actions in this book, is an ongoing practice. It never is going to end. For example, I recently discovered that I was holding on to obsessive thoughts about some of the goals I have for the near future. Of course, it can be a good thing to plan and set goals and work toward a dream. But in this case, my inner jaguar noticed that something was off. My thoughts were repetitive, and my parasite has subtly entered the conversation, implying false promises. Only once you finally have X will you feel Y and know you are worthy of Z. Why do you want to achieve this goal so badly? My jaguar hissed instinctively, challenging my inner voices. Is your striving coming from a place of genuine desire or a place of fear? How long will you pursue a carrot on a stick with singular focus, blind to the landscape of opportunity around you at all times? Why are you attaching your worth and your happiness to some future outcome instead of finding it now in the present moment, the only time that actually exists? When I questioned myself in this way, my inner jaguar was able to guide me back to the Nawal within and remind me that everything is perfect exactly the way it is. I recentered myself and let go of the need to achieve this goal. If it happens, that's wonderful. If it doesn't, that's wonderful too. In the next few chapters, we will look at the practice of awareness and transform through the lens of each of the four elements, following the path through the plazas of water, air, fire, and earth, moving through these elements and the inner states and outward processes that they symbolize can help you restore a healthy relationship between mind and heart. When your mind and your heart are in harmony, all of your other relationships have the potential to be in harmony as well. Woo! This chapter right here is so powerful. It is amazing. I hope you were taking notes. I hope you were listening in. But if you weren't, no worries. There's always another moment. There's always another time to re-listen in and pay attention. But this chapter right here is life-changing. I've been doing this work since I first read Don Miguel Ruiz's books, probably 12 years ago. And I've been practicing. I've been that jaguar, relentless, but loving and kind. You'll never hear me speak a word negatively about myself, and really believe it and mean it. But it's been practice and constant practice. And just like he mentioned, you can catch yourself. You're always going to continue to catch yourself with different things and falling into different things of why am I being so caught up in that? But that's the beautiful thing, that you're catching, you're hearing that jaguar voice, and you may get trapped in it, and then you're free again in those moments. And that's what these books will allow you to do. It's not just reading it one time, but it's constantly reminding us to continue to practice over and over and over again. Exercise, awareness walk. And this will be concluding this particular chapter. Okay, with these exercises. And he's going to give a few. An excellent way to begin flexing your awareness muscles is to take regular walks in a natural setting, a relatively peaceful place like a city or state park, with plenty of flora and fauna is ideal. I'm not sure what flora and fauna is. I'm guessing it might be flowers. I don't know.
Flora is flowers, fauna is water.
Okay, flowers and water. Fauna is water. Interesting. But if that's unavailable to you, a quiet neighborhood street is just fine. Don't worry too much about the location. I have a friend who practices walking regularly in a nearby wooded park, and it provides plenty of peaceful opportunities for contemplation, even though it's located right next to the city airport. The main idea is to find an area where you can breathe and take in the world around you through your senses. Your walk can be as short as 5 or 10 minutes, or as long as you wish. Before you begin your walk, set your intention. Take a few deep breaths and try to let go of any worries about the future or nagging thoughts from the past. Be solely in the present. Try to keep your sense of awareness as open as possible. At first, this may be hard to do, and you may find your thoughts wandering the way they do in the beginning stages of a meditation practice. Don't beat yourself up if this happens. Just gently bring your attention back to the present moment and the sensations of your body interacting with the world around you. The sense and taste in the air, the feel of the breeze on your skin, the muscle of your body moving you forward, the weight of your hands at the end of your arms, the sounds of birds, airplanes, other people. If it helps, you can assign a specific sensation to return to when you find your mind wandering. For example, every time you notice that you've left the present moment and have stopped being fully aware of your surroundings, put your focus on the bottoms of your feet as they move over the landscape. Remember, this awareness is not about making any kind of judgment. If you catch an unpleasant whiff, smell as you walk past a dumpster or a stagnant pond, for example, try to see if you react with a story. I'll bet nobody collected that garbage in weeks. The city's garbage collection program is so negligent. Instead of simply observing and moving on. Exercise, stilling the storytelling mind. This exercise can help you extend your expanding physical awareness into the realm of the mind and then deeper into the stories and beliefs that have become habitual to you over the years. It's even easier to become distracted in this work. The mitote works hard to sidetrack you with its many voices, so it takes practice to see where stories are being told and to uncover their origins. The goal is to develop and strengthen your awareness of your inner self so you can apply your judgment of various situations more consciously. For this exercise, you'll need the list you made in your journal at the end of chapter 2. Choose one of the examples you noted of negative self-talk. First, turn it around a bit in your mind and see if you can narrow your focus to the specific story being told. For example, take this unfortunately all too common message from the parasite. Example, I'm unattractive. Then consider any of its more specific corollaries, which is like too fat or too skinny or too tall, too short, imperfect skin, crooked teeth, etc. next. Determine some of the stories you may be telling related to this message. For example, I will never be good looking enough to attract a life partner. Or I don't deserve love because no one would want to look at me the way I am. Or attractive people have it easier in life than I do. Or I would finally be happy if only I were thin. Or I were tall, or had better skin, or hair, or features. Now, spend some time reviewing the list you made at the end of chapter 3, where you looked at the positive traits and accomplishments in your life that you have been using to build your identity. Look for the stories you have attached to them. For example, perhaps you had something like this on your list. I am a spiritual person. In this case, the story you tell may be, I am better than others because I am on a spiritual path. Once you've identified one, or even a few stories surrounding the messages you chose, see if you can pinpoint a few times in your life when you may first have been domesticated to that story. If you can't think of a specific time, that's okay. The work you're doing in this exercise is more about seeing the story itself and being aware of how your mind works. Finally, spend some time with your story and try to see it as just that, a story. It's not a real fact of life. It's a construct, a belief. You can choose either to accept or reject it every time it gets told. Give yourself permission to reject this story and, at the same time, forgive yourself for having accepted it in the first place. Imagine yourself surrounded by a great golden light, the light of unconditional love. This light surrounds you in every moment. All you have to do is become aware of it. Exercise, yes and no. This exercise helps you take a deeper look at how and when you accept or reject situations. The Toltec tradition recognizes that we are all the artists of our lives. Every time we say yes, something is created. Every time we say no, something is not created. We often forget the power we have in every moment to make choices, and we get stuck in automatic habits instead. Do you know when you are accepting something and when you are rejecting it? How often do you stop and ask yourself, do I want to say yes to this right now? You can practice this first on small, seemingly insignificantly decisions and habits. Do I want to say yes to using my dominant hand for most things? Or should I try to strengthen my other hand with this task? Do I want to say yes to turning the same way on my walk as I usually do? Or take a new route instead? Once you practice making choices on these and other small questions, try some bigger ones. Do I want to continue doubting myself today, or do I want to set that aside? Do I want to be the victim in this situation or the warrior? Do I want to hold on to this opinion, or do I want to let it go? It's okay to reevaluate your choices, even when you know they have big consequences. For example, I know a couple who ask each other every day if they want to stay married. They do it mostly as a loving joke, but it also reminds them that they are saying yes over and over to their partnership and that they always have the option to say no. Consider making the way you say yes into a game. In fact, play may be the most powerful, yet most overlooked tool we have in our emotional arsenal for growth and learning. For instance, there's a children's book called Yes Day. It is all about one day a year when parents say an enthusiastic yes to everything their children want to do. Before your judge gets riled up, let me tell you that the grown-ups put a few basic safety rules in place at the start. Ice cream for breakfast? Yes, that is what we're doing today. Turning all the furniture in the living room upside down? Why, yes, that is my number one priority. This silly and fun day creates space for an important understanding for children and adults alike. We tend to follow the rules of life out of habit, but we always have a choice to say yes to them. Saying yes out of obligation, fear, or comfort can easily get you stuck in a rut. Sometimes you can go so far down this path of unconscious rule following that by the time you hit midlife, you don't even know what you really want anymore. It's a great exercise. Exercise, mirror ritual. In the Toltec tradition, we use the mirror to teach an important lesson about how the mind works. That's because whether we realize it or not, when we look out into the world, we see ourselves reflected everywhere, in everything and everyone. We see things that we admire about ourselves, and we see things that we dislike. Very often, when we see something out in the world and have an emotional reaction to it, what we're really reacting to is this reflection of our own inner selves. The problem is, of course, that we often don't realize, thank you, we are looking at our own reflections. However, once you are able to realize this, you become able to recognize yourself in everyone else. All of us here on this planet are struggling with the same search for meaning and happiness. We all experience joy, pain, suffering, and love. But even if you see reflections of yourself in all others and in the world at large, that doesn't mean you can control them. The only thing you are truly able to control is yourself, which is then reflected back out into the world for good or ill. When you're able to see this truth, you are better able to navigate your relationships and your community with grace and respect. We are each other's mirrors. In this exercise, you create your own small mirror room. You can also do this exercise in front of the mirror in your bathroom, if that's what is available to you. First, set up 4 mirrors in the 4 quarters of a circle in a small area where you know you won't be disturbed for at least 30 minutes. You can do this using pedestals or small tables. Then set a backless stool in the middle of the circle so you can turn around and gaze into each mirror in turn. Once your space is set up, settle onto the stool facing one of the mirrors. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. On each inhalation, feel yourself becoming more aware of the present moment, the sounds, scents, and feelings of the space you are in. As you inhale, imagine all the tension in your body melting away into the floor. Take as many of these breaths as necessary until you feel you're in a calm and relaxed state. When you are ready, open your eyes and gaze softly into the mirror in front of you, into your own eyes. You may hear the voice of your judge almost immediately telling you about how you look. This exercise isn't necessarily about that, but definitely pay attention and perhaps remember to work with some of what comes up in your journal later. For now, as you do in meditation, just as you hear the voices, then let them go. Keep looking into your own eyes. After a while, you may begin to see yourself differently. This is a trick of the eye, but it can be startling. Just observe. This is you. Now turn and look into the mirror and make the same observations. This is you. And the next mirror, this is you as well. Everywhere you turn, you see your own reflection. This is a powerful metaphor for your life as you move out into the world. When you look into another's eyes, you are seeing a reflection of yourself. This isn't a lesson in narcissism. It's a lesson in finding connection and realizing that each person that you encounter is experiencing the same desires for happiness, the same despair, the same disappointments that you are. Once you've turned full circle, close your eyes and spend a few moments integrating the information that you have discovered. Consider that if you are a reflection of others and they are a reflection of you, then your inner work is not just a gift to yourself, it's a gift to others as well. Think of one small part of this gift that you'd like to reflect out into the rest of the world. One way in which you can change your personal dream. Imagine that this is a physical gift you give through your eyes. Maybe this is the gift of remaining calm in the face of chaos. Maybe it is a gift of self-compassion. Now open your eyes, look into the mirror, and give yourself this gift. Because this is a powerful exercise that can bring up a lot of thoughts and feelings, you may wish to set aside some time for journaling immediately afterward, or you may want to go outside for a brisk walk to help refocus and ground yourself in the beauty of the natural world. Beautiful, beautiful exercises. And that concludes chapter 4, the Plaza of the Mind. And that was a great number of exercises. The mirror exercise, the yes and no exercise, the awareness walk exercise, and then the stilling the storytelling mind exercise. Let me know which one resonated with you most. If you feel like you want to do all of them, that's beautiful, amazing. Or even if you just choose one of these exercises and maybe once a week you do them and implement them, go ahead and knock those out. And maybe adding any to your monthly, daily, weekly rituals that you start integrating into your life. Is it the walk? Where you're gonna take a 5, 10, even 20-minute walk into nature, and just reflect, observe, putting your attention to the present moment whenever you might wander. Okay. And then also remembering that the awareness is not about making judgments, about just observing and observing the stories that you might be telling about what your senses are hearing or smelling or taste and all of those different senses, and recognizing that our mind, that's what it does. It tells stories. Okay. So what an amazing chapter. Would love to understand, what you got out of this. Hopefully you got a ton of value. Hopefully you felt even more freer. Okay. As we continue on this journey together. Okay. So chapter 4. Let's see. Chapter 5 is the next chapter, and it's called The Plaza of Water. Let's do it. We'll see you very soon. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. I love you. I'm proud of you. You're perfect. And let's continue to practice. And remember, be that jaguar that is relentless yet loving, stalking your thoughts. What are you going to wake up and say, I'm going to stalk this thing specifically today, but at the same time, I'm going to be the most loving, most compassionate voice. All right. We'll talk to you soon. See you in the next Read With Me session. And we'll take care. And we'll see you soon. Take care. Bye.